Hi, welcome back to our worship service at Hillcrest United Methodist Church. I'm Pastor Jill, and it's a beautiful day out in the neighborhood. I think we've passed all of the freezing things, so when Katie pans around this location, we'll let you see some pretty flowers. So we're going to continue our service on the Sermon on the Mount. Today we're going to do a deeper dive on the Beatitudes, and we do have one announcement. Last week we had way too many people guess that I was at Jan and Bob's in their tulip area, but I do have to say a special thanks to Marilyn Sadlowski, to Bob, and to Kay, and to Kathy Roberts, because they guessed. So that means Pastor Jill is going to be back in the kitchen tonight making biscottis and getting those delivered out to that group. So we're going to need to step up our game. So now Katie's going to do a 360-degree pan as to where we are today and see if you guys can guess this time. Creatures might give it away, but we're hoping that it might be a little bit more difficult than last time. So here we are. Again, if you have a guess as to where we are, if you can shoot it to a text, email, Facebook it, or tweet it to us, let us know where you think, and then you will also be eligible for the homemade Pastor Jill biscottis. So this morning we're going to hear from some different faces and voices. We are so excited about this worship service as we really delve into the Beatitudes. And we would like to start out our service this morning with what Katie has so genuinely coined our COVID choir. So please listen, sit back, relax, and listen to the COVID choir.
Again, your Sunday school teacher. This is now the third video that we're doing, so this is kind of fun. And so anyway, I want to again say hi to Ellie and Hattie and Evan and Nathan and Orion and Connor and Tyler and Hannah. Each time I do this, I try to say the names in a different order, okay? So anyway, I'm going to have a quick prayer. Dear Jesus, help us to learn more about hope today and help us to realize that our main hope is for you in the future in heaven, and even we have a future here on earth after the pandemic. In your name I pray, amen. Okay, so what does hope mean? Hope means looking ahead to hopefully a better future or planning ahead. You know, like sometimes in your classes, they give you homework, and so that means they want you to get it done not now, but for the future. In other words, not today, but tomorrow. Like tomorrow is the future. And so sometimes you have to plan to do that. So I want you to think of two things and talk about this with your friends and family. Two things you want to do after it's safe to be around people more, okay? Now for me, it's a haircut and color, because you can probably, if you look close, you can zoom in and you can see the gray starting to come out of my hair. So I always perm and color my hair, and I'm gonna have to try a haircut too. And maybe the next time we do this video, we'll see how my own hair coloring turns out. I'm gonna try and do that. That'll be a first. You can, in the future, I think it helps to have a calendar. So I brought a calendar in from the dollar store. And because, again, you know, like today is whatever day, today's Friday. But in the future, and I didn't put which Sunday, I just said that we're going to make the cross art. Remember, we are going to do this for Palm Sunday and work on it Palm Sunday and Easter. This is the art project. And remember, here's the cross, and we have the Crayola paints that we can use to color the cross, you know, and we have some felt on the back that we can glue on. And then when you get that done, you can hang it up at home. So this is a permanent object. It's something you can keep. You know, you won't need to throw it away like the lots of papers. Okay, here's another thing you can kind of notice when you go to maybe grocery stores. Some of them now have information about the COVID disease, 2019, COVID-19. That's another thing to kind of watch out for in the future. So think about something that you want to do when you can get out and about more. And you can write these things on the calendar. You know, you probably have a calendar at home somewhere. And this one I got at the dollar store, and they're open. So, you know, write it on the calendar. And then I want you to think about one thing that you want to do differently, okay? Something maybe differently. For me, it's seeing friends in person more, because right now, you know, I'm talking to them on the phone or texting them or on Facebook or something like that. But in the future, you're probably going to want to maybe see people in person so you can give them hugs maybe. You know, hopefully we'll get back to a time when we can do that. And I want to give you guys some Bible verses, and these will kind of be like an ending prayer. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper," that means help, "you and not harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." That's one of my favorites. And another thing you can do during this time is you can memorize some of these Bible verses, or just remember kind of what they said. Romans 12:12 says, "Rejoice in hope. Be patient in tribulation." That means like hard times, like we're going through now. Be constant in prayer. Constant means a lot, okay? And the last one I want to share is Lamentations 3:21 through 23. But I call to mind, and therefore I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. The steadfast love of the Lord never ends. And so remember, our main future is in heaven, where we're going to be happy with God. We'll be citizens of heaven. So we'll probably forget all these troubles that we've had here. And so in the meantime, you know, try to kind of plan some fun things for the future when you get back to, you know, when we get back to being able to be around people more and it's more safe. Okay? So thanks, you guys. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Praise be the nurses and doctors, every medical staff bent over flesh to offer care, for lives saved and lives lost, for showing up either way. Praise for the farmers tilling soil, planting seeds so food can grow, an act of hope if ever there was. Praise be the janitors and garbage collectors, the grocery store clerks and the truck drivers barreling through long, quiet nights. Give thanks for bus drivers, delivery persons, postal workers, and all those keeping an eye on water, gas, and electricity. Blessings on our leaders making hard choices for the common good, offering words of assurance. Celebrate the scientists working a way to understand the thing that plagues us, to find an antidote, and all the medicine makers. Praise be the journalists keeping us informed. Praise be the teachers, finding new ways to educate children from afar, and blessings on parents holding it together for them. Blessed are the elderly and those with weakened immune systems, all those who worry for their health. Praise for those who stay at home to protect them. Blessed are the domestic violence victims on lockdown with abusers, the homeless and refugees. Praise for the artists and poets, the singers and storytellers, all those who nourish with words and sound and color. Blessed are the ministers and therapists of every kind, bringing words of comfort. Blessed are the ones whose jobs are lost, who have no savings, who feel fear of the unknown gnawing. Blessed are those in grief, especially who mourn alone. Blessed are those who have passed into the great night. Praise for police and firefighters, paramedics, and all who work to keep us safe. Praise for all the workers and caregivers of every kind. Praise for the sound of notifications, messages from friends reaching across the distance. Give thanks for laughter and kindness. Praise be our four-footed companions with no forethought or anxiety, responding only in love. Praise for the seas and rivers, forests and stones who teach us to endure. Give thanks for your ancestors, for the wars and plagues they endured and survived. Their resilience is in your bones, your blood. Blessed is the water that flows over our hands and the soap that helps keep them clean, each time a baptism. Praise every moment of stillness and silence so new voices can be heard. Praise the chants and slowness. Praise be the birds who continue to sing the sky awake each day. Praise for the primrose poking yellow petals from dark earth. Blessed is the air clearing overhead so one day we can breathe deeply again. And when this has passed, may we say that love spread more quickly than any virus ever could. May we say this was not just an ending, but also a place to begin.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
So this morning we are in our second Sunday studying the Sermon on the Mount found in Matthew. And today we're going to do, as I mentioned earlier, a deeper dive on what has become known as the Beatitudes. And the Beatitudes can be understood in a number of different ways. First of all, we can look at them as like a code of ethics for disciples of Jesus, how we should act, sort of like our code of conduct. We're also going to show us how the Old Testament expectations will be fulfilled in the New Kingdom. They're also a contrast to the superficial faith of the Pharisees and unbelievers today, as compared to what Jesus really wants us to know and understand. So these Beatitudes are really not a multiple choice. You can't pick and choose some and then leave the rest. You've really got to take the message as a whole way of life, of living and believing. They describe what followers of Jesus should be like now, how we should act in our world today. So each Beatitude tells us that we are blessed. And blessed means more than happiness. It implies the fortunate or inevitable state of those who are in God's kingdom. And the Beatitudes, they don't promise laughter or pleasure or earthly prosperity. To Jesus, blessed means that we experience hope, joy, and it's like independent of our outward circumstances. So to find hope and joy, the deepest form of happiness, we're going to need to follow Jesus no matter what the cost. So I'd like you to sit back and listen to my friend Veronia as she reads from Matthew 5, 1 through 13, the Beatitudes.
Happy are those who know they are spiritually poor. The kingdom of heaven belongs to them. Happy are those who mourn. God will comfort them. Happy are those who are humble. They will receive what God has promised. Happy are those whose greatest desire is to do what God requires. God will satisfy them fully. Happy are those who are merciful to others. God will be merciful to them. Happy are the pure in heart. They will see God. Happy are those who work for peace. God will call them his children. Happy are those who are persecuted because they do what God requires. The kingdom of heaven belongs to them. Happy are you when people insult you and persecute you and tell you all kinds of evil lies against you because you are my followers. Be happy and glad, for a great reward is kept for you in heaven. This is how the prophets who lived before you were persecuted.
You see, the Beatitudes are a radical revisioning of the people of God. And as Warner Carter frames this up, he says, in the Beatitudes, Jesus has the disciples imagine a different world, a different identity for themselves, a different set of practices, a different relationship to the status quo. And you might say, well, why imagine? Not because it isn't impossible, but not because it's escapist, not because it's a fantasy, not because it begins to counter patterns similar to the culture of our world today. So they're different patterns, different methods. And how about us today? How comfortable have we gotten? Do we walk by or drive by a homeless person without even smiling at them, nodding our head, or even acknowledging their existence with a brief wave? Or do we reach down at our phone at that time like it instantly has rung and needs all of our attention? Do we head off to a funeral or a memorial service for a friend's spouse and then conveniently cut them out of our circle of friends because every time we see them, they're so sad and they're so pathetic to be around? Or do we find ourselves speaking up for the meek, those who have a small voice or no voice at all, calling out injustice and speaking love and truth? Or, when the time comes, do we conveniently lose our voice also? Do we do something for those 20+ million people who have lost their jobs, their livelihoods? People who patiently and embarrassingly wait in those long food lines for miles. People who 2 months ago were self-sufficient, who could pay their rent, who could pay their mortgages, who could feed their families, and through no fault of their own have been furloughed or have lost their jobs. Do we just sit and write a check, buy our own food, volunteer our time at any of the food banks, or do we simply spend our time using Grubhub so that we can save our own favorite restaurants? And when people speak badly about us, about our family, our friends, do we conjure up some crazy, conniving story about them and their family? Or do we politely ask them for some space and time to sit down and have a conversation, to set the record straight, so that we can all begin to speak the truth? You see, the Beatitudes, the teaching of Jesus, blesses all kinds of people, people who are humble and poor, those who pursue righteousness, those who seek justice, and those that work towards peace. But oftentimes we add our own new standards, another long list of people or reasons that people should be blessed. They should be blessed because they read their Bible and they pray daily, or they attend church regularly, or they tithe, or they've succeeded in business, or they've run for personal office. And perhaps some of these people are indeed deserving of a blessing. Although Jesus looked into the cracks of the culture, into the corners of society, into those dark places where the marginalized folks lived, and he tried to bless those people also. And that's where Jesus still calls us to look today, into the cracks of society, into the crevices, to find those marginalized, the poor, the humble, the meek, the unemployed, the mentally ill, the homeless, the people who have lost so much, and the people who need justice, who need our voice, and the people who will potentially come to Jesus if only given a chance and an introduction. And how about you today? Do you feel blessed? Do you believe that as a child of God that you've been singled out and blessed with all the love and the care and the comfort of a God? Where do you see yourself in the story of the Beatitudes? Let's listen one more time to Veronia reading those Beatitudes for us today. And as you listen that second time, I encourage you to look for your space, to look for the space that you are blessed, and the spaces that you might step out in faith in order to bless others. Listen one more time to those Beatitudes.
Happy are those who know they are spiritually poor. The kingdom of heaven belongs to them. Happy are those who mourn. God will comfort them. Happy are those who are humble. They will receive what God has promised. Happy are those whose greatest desire is to do what God requires. God will satisfy them fully. Happy are those who are merciful to others. God will be merciful to them. Happy are the pure in heart. They will see God. Happy are those who work for peace. God will call them his children. Happy are those who are persecuted because they do what God requires. The kingdom of heaven belongs to them. Happy are you when people insult you and persecute you and tell you all kinds of evil lies against you because you are my followers. Be happy and glad, for a great reward is kept for you in heaven. This is how the prophets who lived before you were persecuted.